So we got to go ahead and talk about this whole situation involving a private company in Saudi Arabia who is buying up EA for a whopping $50 billion. And supposedly this investor group includes Silver Lake and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, which would also impact BioWare in the future of Mass Effect. Now, do bear in mind, since 2018, Saudi Arabia has banned 47 different games, including games like Grand Theft Auto 5, Final Fantasy 16, Last of Us Part 2, Resident Evil 5 and 6, Heavy Rain, and Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. And I'm only pointing that out specifically because Saudi Arabia is the country y'all are, waving your pom-poms for, hoping that they close down BioWare and take them out back like old Yeller. I'm just going to be looking at y'all crazy and be like, all right, you want them to take out BioWare now, but when they start closing down studios you really give a damn about, who you going to blame? The Saudis or EA? And also, I kind of find it so baffling and bum fucking odd that people are demanding EA to close down BioWare, but I thought EA were the bad guys when they were closing down studios all them years ago. They closed down so many different studios, Visceral Games, to hell, even Ghost Games, who was making Need for Speed at one point. Their last Need for Speed game, Heat, was amazing. And they got closed down for some type of relocation issues or some bullshit, which I, to this day, still don't buy that malarkey. But any and every studio that EA has closed, everybody dragged them through the goddamn mud. So what's so different about BioWare compared to everybody else? Is it because y'all think that the studio is a show of themselves, or would that still make EA the bad guys? Like, which is it? Because to me, you can't for years say, yo, EA ought to close down BioWare after Anthem, after Dragon Age the Veilguard. And to me, it don't make a lick of sense to demand EA close down BioWare if you're the type of person that always ridiculed EA for closing down different developers. And people can make the argument, well, it's because with the other developers, they were very loved. And BioWare is not at that point where they once were, where they were still loved by a lot of people. And maybe, just maybe, that would be a fair assessment. Either way, I think it's one of the things, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you keep them open, you may just essentially be hemorrhaging money with one development studio. At the same time, you want to quell or stop any incoming narrative about you being the studio killer company. So I just want to know, if and when EA does decide to close down BioWare, would they still be the studio killers? Are y'all going to be cheering for that? Are y'all going to be happy that they close down BioWare? Or are y'all going to sit there and ridicule them for doing something that a lot of people have been demanding that they do? Why? I don't know. But if it was to happen, it would be a Saudi move. But guess what? If you think that BioWare will be the first studio that gets closed down thanks to the Saudis, who's to say they'll stop with them and go after every studio at EA that you love? Today, it could be BioWare. Tomorrow, it could be EA Motive. After that, it could be Respawn. After that, it could be DICE. After that, it could be Criterion. And essentially, you have nothing at EA but a bunch of gotcha pachinko games. All I'm saying is, you want Frankenstein's monster to come out and kill one local villager. Don't be mad when Frankenstein starts killing everybody in the process. Case in point, look no further than Embracer Group. Everybody begged and pleaded, please, can you shut down Volition after this horrible Saints Row reboot? They shut them down, and guess what else they did? They went and laid off, closed down a bunch of other studios that people loved. And people was looking at Embracer like, what the hell are you doing? We didn't want them to be closed down. Well, you were telling them to close down one company, so they decided to close down everybody. And I'm not going to sit there and say you have to agree with the decision, but you can't sit there and celebrate and cheer and demand that they close down one studio, but then also criticize them if they close down somebody else. Now, do I think that BioWare will go extinct before we get Mass Effect 5? No. I think Mass Effect 5 is their last chance, essentially, for real this time. Even though there's been multiple times, historically speaking, after Anthem, Bioware is going to get closed down. They were given another chance. After Veilguard, people were saying, oh, Bioware is going to get closed down. They're given another chance with Mass Effect 5. Hell, they announced the game years before Veilguard even came out. But I have a good feeling that Mass Effect 5 might just be that game that kind of, you know, brings them back into good standing. I'm not saying it'll knock everybody's socks off, but at least it'll be better than their last outing with Veilguard. And to some people, that might not be saying much, but if it is that home run type of game and people love it and the word of mouth is fantastic, I wouldn't be surprised if EA decided to pull the plug on Bioware, because they've done that in the past before. They did that with Ghost Games. After years of putting out decent to okay racing games, they knocked it out the park with Need for Speed Heat. Everybody loved that game, and next thing you know, Ghost goes out of business. And I'm not saying the same could happen to Bioware if that happens, but it would be another big head-scratching move from EA or the Saudis, if you want to blame them. And also, if Bioware goes out of business, who the hell does EA got to make the next Mass Effect game? Because you can't stretch out Vince Zampella for all he's worth. I mean, my God, he's already making Star Wars games at Respawn on top of handling and overseeing the developments with Battlefield. So what, you're going to have Respawn be the developers behind the next Mass Effect game? Or if not them, Motive? Granted, Respawn is their best developer that they have, albeit people do have a problem with their optimization. But still, if Bioware goes out of business, you don't have that many developers left to make games. Outside of DICE, outside of Criterion with the racing games, Respawn, outside of EA Motive, you really just have 4 big developers. And I understand they also have Codemasters, but nobody checks for Codemasters, if we're being honest. I'm also well aware that they publish indie games and they have their usual sports titles. I'm not talking about those. They're outside of that umbrella. What would you have outside of those? All in all I'm saying is be careful for what you wish for. You just might get it. With that being said, y'all let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Till next time, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.